Hey guys, we're in the studio today with Conrad Molden, and we are talking about some of the stages that you go through when you're trying to learn Danish.
And we've decided that when it comes to learning Danish, there's kind of 5 stages of learning Danish. And you'll find that well, we'll be honest, it's the same thing as the 5 stages of grief. It's essentially the same process.
It's very similar parallel.
Very similar.
Yeah. So you start in the stage of denial, which is basically when the shock comes in and you start to sort of deny the problem as a form of coping, a coping mechanism or a little bit of self-defense. You just sort of deny the problem away and think, yeah, I'll learn it eventually.
Yeah, I just need time.
Exactly. It's a naivete of like, yeah, I'll learn it in like a year and a half.
I'll just passively learn it as I walk down the road, eating rye bread on my bicycle.
It's the immersion that I really need.
Exactly.
And you get this like false confidence from DuoLingo where you start to think, oh, I can put all of these words together in a sentence, then I'll eventually be able to speak the words.
And the owl is now wearing a hat. You're doing great.
You're doing great. And the duck eats bread, and so you're good.
Eats bread. I can say that sentence. I'll use that all the time and impress.
When am I not using that?
Right. But it's this denial stage of...
But obviously, denial begets the second stage, which is anger. And,
that's a big part of it. I feel like I live in that stage, and I drift in and out of it.
Okay, Derek is stuck at stage 2.
I'm really stuck at stage 2.
Yeah. But what's funny, and this is maybe why we do that, I don't know how your experience in learning Danish was, but as we started taking Danish language classes here, we would study with each other.
Oh, yeah.
For about one evening, as we discovered.
That's a bad idea.
It was
awful.
It was awful. We'd be sitting there talking, snockering with each other, and I'd be like, Derek, I think you're saying it wrong. And then Derek would respond with, how do you know?
Yeah, actually, that's pretty spot on. I was about to be offended, but that's exactly what I look like. Yeah, I'd be like, you don't know. You don't know these words. And then I'm already frustrated because I'm trying to speak this language that neither of us knows, and somebody who doesn't know the language is correcting me.
Yeah. So now it's the blind leading the blind.
Yes.
In a circle.
Yes. And I'm just getting more frustrated by somebody who doesn't sound like anything I've ever heard telling me that what I said was wrong. It happens in class too. Like I remember my Danish instructor just saying like, no, de. And I'd be like, yeah, de. But then most of us move on from anger to the third stage, which is bargaining. And normally with bargaining, it's all about trying to how you deal with yourself, how you kind of make it just work for you, because you have to find a way to handle this. That's kind of thing for us. It's kind of the thing of like, well, maybe I don't need it anyways, or you know what, I don't care if I don't speak it, but just let me pass the test so I can stay in the country. Like
exactly. What I like is I feel like there's 2 groups, right? There are those people, Lithuanians, who learn the language and ruin it for the rest of us.
Yes.
And there are a hardcore group, don't let me down, who are waiting for the Danish language to die out. Okay? We just hold strong. It's like if everybody holds hands and stays still, it will go away.
We outlive the Danish language.
Exactly.
Wow.
Languages have come and gone. Look at your history books.
That's right.
Latin, that was everywhere.
Right. And now look at it.
It'll be the same. It'll be open books. And, oh, look at the A and the E letter merged together. Oh,
how cute. How weird. How funny.
What a strange time.
Yeah, I find that I also kind of bargain with myself and think like, okay, I'll go back to classes eventually. Or I think, well, I don't have any Danish family, so I don't really need to speak it that well. And I can speak it well enough that I can get by if I'm ordering something or need to, get off a train or get instructions or something. I can speak enough.
That's how I feel about when you get something in e-box.
Oh, that.
And it comes up and it's like Skadestyrelsen, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, oh, this is Danish. Yeah. This clearly does not apply to me.
Correct.
What? Delete.
Right. Nothing bad comes in the e-box. So just let it go.
If it doesn't say English translation below, it's probably nothing.
It's not important.
But then sometimes I'll have like they'll send 3 messages in Danish about like street work in front of my place. And I'm like, wow, you really made sure that I knew about this. And then I'm like, it's just street work. It's not important.
And then they start at 6:30 in the morning, and you wish you read.
I should have read. I should have read
the
it in more
message.
detail and gone on vacation that week. Yeah.
The only one that I did the deleting with that I wish I hadn't was something from Gilda Stulsen. You know how many Stulsens there are? There's 25 Stulsens, and every Stulse has 25 more hanging off of it. One of those did something where they took some of my income and put it in a little fund because it's Denmark, and they're like, he might
take care of it for you.
Yeah, this person might like lose their job and get addicted to crack. Like, we've got to take care of them. So they took all that money and they put it in, and they sent me a message saying, "Oh, you need to log in to get the money. Otherwise, you can release it in 30 years."
Oh my God.
And I was like, this is in Danish, delete. And then at some point I was, doing the fairy paying thing. It said, "Oh, Gulla, Stula, Stula." And I clicked on it and did the translation. It said, "Yeah, but you missed the deadline." And that was when I was like, okay, probably should read e-box.
Right. So now 2050 you is going to get to enjoy that.
Sweet holiday in Mallorca.
Once the Danish language dies out, you'll get the money.
Exactly. Way after.
The money's still there.
It's gone in the next 10 years, don't worry.
Yeah, but then it can lead to maybe situations like that can get into the next stage of learning Danish, which is depression.
It's true. It's how you repress the anger is through depression.
Yeah, because that time passes and you just hold back the anger by being sad.
Yes. You take the anger and you turn it inward.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
And you turn it into depression. So,
I'm never going to learn. I'm over it.
Yeah.
I'm a failure. I'm an embarrassment.
It depresses me sometimes when I try to be bold and speak Danish and then just immediately get shot down and laughed at. Like, Danes have no problem laughing right in your face when you try to speak Danish. And,
no, it is really hard. I don't think people realize how much it makes you step back, because when you have this new confidence, all it takes is 1 in 10 interactions for them to laugh or to mock you, and then you're that ginger kid on the stage receding into the darkness.
Again, yeah.
Going back to
I do have one tip for yourselves and anybody listening that wants to help learn Danish. They are mixing in so much English that what you can do is act like your Danish is so good that you now do that. So you start talking slowly in Danish and then you switch. So you'll be like, det er en really good idea. You have to pace it and make it sound like you know what you're doing. Yeah, you just mix it up, throw in a little bit of English here and there.
Yeah.
Until eventually it's just everybody's all speaking English and they're like, wait, when did I turn the subtitles on?
Second, my tongue.
It's like the classic frog in the pot. You heat it up a little bit, and then suddenly everyone's snockering English, and it's like, oh,
there you go.
We won.
And the sun comes out, the clouds disappear.
And we all have boiled frog for dinner. Which takes us then to acceptance, which is the 5th stage of learning Danish, which is basically relief, hope, and optimism for the future. And maybe in exactly that same fashion, where you just concede that I'm not going to be able to actually learn it. I'll just have to work around it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, it's not, the acceptance isn't starting to speak Danish. The acceptance is accepting that you may not.
I like that. Yeah. Just coming to terms with it, right?
Or just accepting how bad it is and not caring. I have a Danish friend who said, you just have to just speak it anyway. And if somebody has a problem with it or wants to switch to English, just say like, "Oh, can do ik snakke dance?" Like,
oh yeah. I would say I feel like there's a big difference between Copenhagen and the rest of the country, though, because if you want to learn some dance, just go to Jylland.
Yeah.
Maybe not to Aarhus, but go anywhere else, because they're not going to want to speak to you in English.
Are they nicer about it?
They are definitely nicer about it. I mean, it's a real mix. Of course, like 1 in 10 of them will have lived in the US and, is really excited to speak English because they haven't with anybody, because they're, live surrounded by begitas. But most of them will be very, very happy that you speak some Danish with them. But the other problem is that Danes, if you do speak some Danish, you can have like this very simple conversation where it's like, yes, this is a cup, and everyone's like, everyone's aware it's a cup. Whose cup is it? And then they'll just go crazy and start using crazy like, oh dear, recti fructly. And you're like, oh, damn it. I don't know what that means.
Right.
I can ask you like how old your grandmother is and where your father comes from and how many languages your brother speaks, or tell you that the red apple is on the blue table. But,
exactly. Wow, fancy. Hang on.
Yeah. Slow down. Now I'm in module 2. But, I mean, I'm okay with that, with that level.
Ducks eating bread. That's where it should end.
That's where it should end.
Ducks eating
We
bread.
don't need a more complicated society.
No, I will say there was one time that we were on a go boat, one of the boats you can rent in the harbor here, and like one of our friends in the boat threw bread at a duck, and a duck was eating bread, and I was like, "Oh my god,
It's
I've
the
been
time.
waiting.
honest piece of bread, honest piece of bread, yes, finally,
That's amazing.
finally," and that's how DuoLingo won.
Yeah.
That's glorious.
It's like DuoLingo is not waiting out the Danish language, but just waiting out that you're eventually going to use
Something,
this
one
word.
of these phrases.
Yeah. All joking aside, like I do think that I'm happy I've learned some, and I do think that people appreciate it when you at least try. But then they, for me at least, immediately want to go to English because the way that I pronounce things.
I'm just, every time I'm in Copenhagen and I go into 7-Eleven, McDonald's, and I talk to they always reply in English as I'm speaking Danish. Do you have that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get it for in burger. And they're like, yeah, which burger do you want? Then der med ost på. And he's like, the cheeseburger, right? And you're like, oh, wait, why can't I speak English?
Right? Why don't we flip this around?
Yeah,
Like,
let's do the other way around. And I think also the Danes are very good at knowing where in Denmark you come from as a
Yeah,
Dane because they can hear. Even in the Gomor on the way here, the woman said, he said, I can tell that you're from Sjælland. And she said, yes. And he said, I'm guessing you're from Nestville. And she said, yes.
No.
I was like, what? Damn. Like he threw a dart into a barrel of fish and hit one. It's crazy.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
It does blow my mind in a country of 5.8 million people that's the size of Denmark. That like there's that many regional differences that people are like, oh, I can't understand those people from food. I just can't. And it's like, how do I have a chance?
Yeah, that's really true.
Right. I'm like, if you can't understand each other, there's no hope for me.
Yeah, that's so true.
I'll try. I'll humor you. And I'll do the polite thing and learn a bit. But,
Yeah, that's very true, actually. Have you met people from Sunnahjylland? But that's a whole nother...
I've heard, yeah.
Because everything is flipped around. Actually, also in northwest Jutland, because everything, they have in and it.
Yeah.
But everything is it.
Yeah, at Hoots, it's everything.
Exactly. So there are these places. Sunnahjylland, hello is moin,
Oh,
for
right.
example.
Oh, like in Germany, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's got much more influences down there. So it's really hard when you're there. You just have to do the classic. I always give this advice to people. Always have a drink. And whenever they ask you, oh, I can't reply, have to have a sip of my drink. And then the conversation's moved on.
Right. That's
And,
good.
and
the will give confidence as well.
Exactly.
My Danish is always better after the third.
It's
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
You'll get it. And we all know that learning Danish can be difficult and you may go through all 5 of these stages, but it can also be really hilarious and a fun time. So Conrad and I made this other video right here that you can watch about why learning Danish is hard, but also hilarious. So click here, watch it, and you can catch What Are You Doing in Denmark, the episode with Conrad on any of your streaming platforms. Go ahead and find us there, and thanks for watching today, everybody. Hej hej.